Okay, so it's no secret that a car dealership, their main purpose and their main job is to try to make as much money as possible on each customer that walks through that door and each car that they sell. I worked at a car dealership for over 4 years. I was the number one car salesman for 2 years. I got promoted to finance manager, and I did that for almost 3 years before I finally threw in the towel because I just really didn't feel good about what I was doing. Even though the money was great, the hours were terrible, and it just wasn't something I could see myself doing forever. So I quit and I got into real estate. But with that being said, I obviously have seen all the things they do behind the scenes, all the different ways a dealership can make money off of you. I wanted to make this video for anyone that's looking to buy a new car. So when you go to buy a new car, you know the things to look out for that can help you save thousands of dollars at the end of the day. And then I'm going to tell a real life story of a customer that came into the dealership that essentially paid $12,000 more than what he really needed to. In other words, the dealership made $12,000 off one client, one customer. Okay, it's pretty crazy. So with that said, I recommend watching this entire video. There's going to be a ton of valuable information throughout the whole thing. And if you don't mind, it really helps if you hit that like button. So let's get started. Buying a car 101. As I mentioned, I'm going to talk about all the different ways that a dealership can make money off of you. And then we're going to go over a real life example of a customer that came into the dealership and essentially lost $12,000 just by simply not knowing what was going on. And with that story, we're going to talk about everything not to do and how to negotiate for your next car. Okay, so first things first, how does a dealership make money on each customer that walks through that door? And some of these are going to be obvious, but there's 5 ways that they make money that I want to cover. So first and foremost, obviously, is the price of the car. And from my experience, I have found that most cars are marked up, or there's a margin of profit for the dealership between $2,000 to $4,000. This can be a little less and it could be way more. So typically for a new car, that's probably around where you're going to be. And for a used car, it can get crazy. I mean, depending on how much they bought that car for, how much money they had to put into it, right? Then, I mean, I've seen used cars with $9,000, $10,000 in profit for the dealership in that car, meaning that's money that you probably could have negotiated off if you knew what you were doing, okay? Keep this in mind. This is one thing I want to make clear, okay? Not every car makes money at the dealership, because when I worked there, I sold plenty of cars for a net loss, and I know everyone would be like, Jack, there's no way a dealership's losing money on a car. I promise you, it happens, and let me tell you why, okay? Especially for new cars, not necessarily used cars, but a lot of dealerships or manufacturers, right? So if let's say you're selling Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Chrysler, right? You're selling that brand of car. That manufacturer will say, hey, look, if you sell 40 new cars this month, we're going to give the dealership a $50,000 bonus for the month, right? So if they're at like 40 cars for the month and the month's starting to end, you best believe that they're going to start taking some losses on cars just to get that person to buy, right? Because, I mean, let's say they take a total of like, $10,000 loss on 10 cars, so $1,000 loss on each car, but they're still making $40,000 because of that bonus that the manufacturer is offering, right? All right, so you get the point. Nonetheless, the price of the car, probably the most obvious one. There is money, being made there. Next is the interest rate, okay? So if you're not aware, the dealership can legally hold 2% of the interest rate on you. So for example, let's say you qualify for a 3% interest rate. The dealership can legally mark that rate up to 5%, and they make the difference in profit, and they call it a reserve. So think about it. If you're financing a $50,000 car and they're holding 2% of interest on you, I mean, that could be $2,000 or $3,000 that the dealership's making right there, okay? Next, if you're trading in a vehicle, this is a huge way that a dealership can make a ton of money on you. So I recommend, both for the interest rate and trading in your vehicle, do your research first. Know what rate you should qualify for and know what your vehicle is worth. Now, with that being said, I don't care which way you look at it. If you trade your vehicle in with the dealership, there's a very good chance that you're going to take about $2,000 to $3,000 less for that vehicle, okay? But check everything out. Check Carvana. They give quick quotes, and you'd be surprised. Sometimes they're actually pretty aggressive. Other times they're not. Maybe try to sell it by yourself. And if not, sell it at the dealership. And there are scenarios where if you're good at negotiating, where you can get them to give you close to what, you might be able to get by yourself. But then there's also scenarios where, someone doesn't know what their car is worth and boom, they could have saved $3,000 or $4,000, but now the dealership's making that on their trade-in. Number 4, all right, I'm sure you guys have heard of this one, warranties. Big money maker, all right? This is when you go into the finance office and the finance manager tries to sell you a warranty, okay? Now, in my opinion, and from doing this, I don't think there's much wrong with the warranty, especially depending on your driving habits. If you truly think you're going to keep a car for like 7 years and drive 120,000 miles and you can get a bumper-to-bumper warranty for that, probably worth it. Vice versa, if you're someone that's going to trade your car in 2 to 3 years from now, don't do it. It's a waste of money, all right? Because you already get a 3-year 36 bumper-to-bumper warranty from the factory, assuming this is a new car, and then a 5-year 60,000 mile for, the transmission and engine. Every car is a little bit different, don't get me wrong, but that's like a standard for a lot of cars, all right? Now, if it's a used car, those same parameters apply, but obviously if a car is 4 years old, well, then the bumper-to-bumper's out, right? So then you might want to consider one, which is not a bad thing, but this is where it gets a little crazy, is that the dealership, once again, can legally mark up the warranty by 2 to 3 times the price of what it actually cost. So at my dealership, it was 3 times the cost is what you could go. I've seen some other dealerships that honestly, they don't even have a max. Like, Jack, whatever you can get for that warranty, go for it. Other dealerships that are, I guess you could say, a little more ethical, they're like, hey, look, this is the most you could charge a customer for this. For example, let's say a warranty is $2,000 and they can charge you $6,000 for that same warranty. That's where you're getting ripped off. That's where the dealership's making a ton of money on you. And at that point, it is not a good deal. But keep this in mind, okay, depending on which car you get, if you're buying like a Porsche or some high-end expensive car, just know, especially if it's used, typically those warranties are more expensive off the bat, all right? I've seen like an older, Porsche where the warranty for it's like $7,000 or $8,000, right? Where on a new car, a warranty might be $2,000 for like a full bumper-to-bumper, 100,000 miles, 7 years. Anyway, you get the point. They can mark up the warranty on you and make a ton of money on that. And then obviously they sell like, gap insurance. Sometimes that's actually beneficial. Other times it's not. They might sell some like, car care kit that keeps your car's paint, looking healthy. They might sell you some, rim protection or wheel protection, right? Where if you scratch your rims or wheels, you can come in and they'll fix it for free. All that's pretty much bullshit in my opinion. I would not recommend going for that. Again, depending on your situation, your driving habits, how long you plan on keeping the car, a warranty is not bad as long as you get it at cost. All right, lastly, they make money off the service department. I'm not going to, elaborate on this too much, but sometimes, they might take a loss on a car because the dealership in a whole, right, which includes the service department, the dealership's trying to make money in every department that they can, right? So buying a car is one, finance is another, service is another, right? These are like different departments within the dealership, and it all goes to the bottom line. So obviously their goal is, hey, if we sell you a car, we give you a good deal, you're going to come back to us, you're going to use our service department, you're going to get your oil changes here. God forbid something goes wrong with the car, you're going to use us, right? And honestly, the service department probably arguably makes the most money out of the entire dealership. Now, with that being said, those are the 5 ways that a dealership makes money. Obviously, the 4 is what you can negotiate. Now I want to go into a real life example where this client came in and he made good money, right? And at the end of the day, he really didn't care. He just wanted the car, right? So I'm going to walk you through exactly what this client did, and then we're going to talk about the things he did wrong. And then that will lead us into how to negotiate for your next car. Okay, so how a dealership made over $12,000 off one single client, right? So this client walks in. He already knew what kind of car he wanted. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was like a 392 Charger Scat Pack, right? Was trading in a vehicle, but he knew what he wanted. He made really good money, right? So he comes in, he has a trade-in. He said he didn't have that good of credit, and so he wasn't even sure if he could get the car, like if he could get approved. At the end of the day, like he came in with this mindset. He came in saying, look, I don't know if I can get approved for this, but if I can, I'm buying it. Like I make the money to do it. My credit's crap, but I make the money. I can afford whatever payment you put in front of me. And I want to drive away in this car today, right? That was his mindset. First of all, like, don't ever get that emotional about a car, because that's just like fuel for a salesman, right? They're like, oh my God, this guy's, he's emotionally attached. They're going to buy this car. Anyway, so we take his trade in, we appraise it, all right? And then, whatever the appraised value is, it's the dealership's discretion to show you what they're willing to give you. So let's say it appraises for $17,000. The dealership might be like, okay, let's show them $10,000 for this, right? I don't know, they might. I've seen it before. Someone might come back and be like, that's crazy. There's no way I know my car is worth at least 15, right? Hopefully you're doing that. Not everyone does though. And that's why I'm making this video, because I've seen people lose a lot of money at a dealership. So either way, it's their discretion to put whatever number they want. And typically they're going to try to make some money on it, right? They're going to like lower it by $2,000 or $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, right? And then you negotiate from there. So nonetheless, we get his trade in, we value it, we sit him down at the desk, we run his credit. So my manager was like, hey, let's submit it to some banks and, see what kind of rate we can get him, right? And so this is one thing I want to mention, right? So when you finance with a dealership, they do the shopping for you, okay? So in other words, they're going to submit it to Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Chase, PNC, right? Hopefully, if you have good credit, it only needs to go to one or two banks because they probably know where the best deal is, right? Now, the thing is, if you don't have as good of credit, well, now there's banks out there that deal with subprime loans. Like, they deal with not so good credit. Like, that's like their niche, right? It's a higher interest rate, but they'll take the client, right? Like, hey, we'll take on this risk, but we're going to charge you 12%, let's say, right? Anyway, this guy, his credit wasn't the best, but this is where the big issue came into, right? So like I said, the client comes in, falls in love with the car. We value his trade-in. We run his credit, right? What's next? We show him numbers, right? This is where I really want you to pay attention. So if you learn anything from this video, whatever you do not ever commit to the first worksheet that a dealership shows you. In other words, when they come out and they say, hey, Mr. and Mr. Smith, great news. We got you approved. You have 9 different payment options here. Here's 3 different down payment options as well, and different terms that you can choose from. You can pick 60, 72, or 84 months. Obviously, 84 months is going to give you the lowest payment. Circle which payment best suits you, right? Guess what? We present the worksheet to this guy, and he just circles the payment. Didn't ask any questions, because at the end of the day, all he cared about was just walking away with that car. He said, I don't care what it costs. As long as you can get me approved, I'll buy it. And in this scenario, we showed him like a $1,200 payment. Circled it. Boom, done. Didn't ask about the trade. Didn't ask about the interest rate. Didn't ask about negotiating money off the bottom line. Nothing. And so in this scenario, how this ended up being such a big deal for the dealership is because he circled that payment. Now listen, right? As I mentioned, he didn't have that good of credit. In this scenario, right, and I don't remember the details exactly, but this is pretty much how it worked, right? In this scenario, those numbers that we presented, right, we submitted his application to the bank, and we were confident that he could get approved. We just didn't know the exact interest rate, right? So as we're waiting to hear back from the bank, they're like, here, go ahead, show him this worksheet. We're going to go ahead. We're going to show him 12% interest rate because we're pretty confident we can at least get that, if not better, right? And we'll go from there because they're not expecting him just to sign it, right? They're expecting to negotiate. And then they're like, this will give us room to negotiate, right? Like, we're going to show you 12% interest rate. If you don't like the payments, again, we're confident that, we're going to be able to get that lower, but let's just start there. Let's just see what happens, right? Best case scenario, we make a ton of money. If not, we start negotiating. Oh my God. The best case scenario for a dealership happened. We present those numbers at 12% interest rate, holding money on the trade-in, okay? Holding all the money on the car, right? And he circles the payment. He commits to it. Done. So think of this, right? We showed him a 12% interest rate. And again, I don't remember the exact numbers of this by any means, but he actually ended up qualifying for, let's say, like a 7%, right? And I mentioned earlier that you can only technically hold 2%. So now we're giving him a 7% interest rate. Now we're holding 2%. That puts us at 9%. But he agreed, to that $1,200 payment, which was at 12%. Now you have 3% of interest that's not being accounted for. So the dealership has options here, right? And this is where things can get unethical. And I'm not saying every dealership does this, but I am saying that it is very possible, especially some mom and pop shop, that this is what they're going to do to you. So be careful, okay? So not only, again, he's losing money on the trade-in, losing money because he's not negotiating the car at all, not asking about the interest rate. The bottom line is he's okay with the $1,200 payment. So now what the dealership will do, if he's already committed to that first worksheet, like they're going to try to make that payment $1,200. So what I mean by that is now what they'll do is they'll say, hey, Jack, go out and tell them we have good news. We're able to give him a full bumper-to-bumper warranty, right, for 7 years, 120,000 miles, the biggest warranty you can get, let's say, and his payment's not going to change, right? Well, if he's okay with $1,200 and we go tell him that, what do you think he's going to say? Jack, thank you. Like, thank you. Like, hell yeah, right? Little does he know, like, we just charged $6,000 for a warranty. I mean, the dealership is making a ton of money at this time. They're making money on the reserve, holding interest. They're making a ton of money on the warranty. They're making a ton of money, on the car and on his trade-in. Let's let that soak in. I mean, it's disgusting, honestly, sometimes. And, for the dealership, this is a freaking home run. This is a grand slam, okay? Like, this is the best case scenario for the dealership and the worst case scenario for a client. Now, you're probably saying, most people are going to ask questions like, well, how you doing that, Jack? Like, how are you able to get me, a free warranty, essentially? You know what they end up saying? Well, we had a couple coupons that we could use for this bank, and we got your interest rate down an extra 2%. But you got to get the warranty for us to use that coupon. Again, it can get unethical to a point, right? And I'm not saying every dealership does this. I'm just saying look out for this, okay? That is the purpose of this video, right? To know all the different ways and all the different tricks that they have to make money off of you, to save money and put money into your pocket instead of theirs. So again, this guy didn't ask me any questions at the end of the day. I don't think he asked any questions. But I'm giving you an example if someone were to ask a question, because I'm sure you're probably asking that question, right? Like, well, most people probably would have asked a lot more questions, but not everyone does. And if you're one of those people, please don't fall into this trap. Okay, so moving on, we'll wrap this up. How to negotiate for a car, right? Number one, negotiate the bottom line first. Do not pay attention to the payments, okay? As I mentioned, the worst thing you can ever do when you buy a car is agreeing to a payment on that first worksheet they pull out. Because I promise you 95% of the time, you're losing money if that's the case, okay? Honestly, you should just ask for a cash worksheet, even if you plan to finance, Give them your credit, do whatever you want, right? That's not an issue, right? And there's this misconception that if you give the dealership your credit's going to go to shit. It's not, right? I will say this, where it can, so just give you an example. If you submit your credit with the dealership, like I said, they're shopping for you, and each bank they shop might hit your credit like a point or two, right? So if they go to 2 or 3 banks because you have good credit and they know where to go, might hurt you by 3 or 4 points, right? Where it hurts you is when you're someone that doesn't have good credit and you're like, I don't care what you have to do, just get me into this car. Well, there's a scenario where they're like, okay, we're going to submit this to every single bank because your credit's not that good, and we're going to hope that someone says yes. In that scenario, 20 different banks at 1 to 2 points per bank, yeah, that's 20, 30, 40 points off your credit. That's possible. Should not happen that way, but I've seen it. So just wanted to put that out there because I know when I was at a dealership, this was a big concern for everyone. Again, if you have good credit, I wouldn't let that worry you. So again, negotiate the bottom line first. Ask for a cash worksheet. Just don't even pay attention to any payments at all. Again, if you have a trade-in, negotiate the trade-in and negotiate the price of the car. Also, if they have dealer add-ons, okay, like, hey, we got already installed window tint and we put this, stuff on the car to protect the paint, and that's going to cost this, and we have pulsing brake lights, and that's going to cost another $700, right? Hey, try to get them to take that crap off, all right, honestly. And worst case, say, look, if you have to leave it on there because that's what they're going to argue, it's already installed, we can't do nothing about it, then say, oh, that's fine, but I want it at cost. I want it at the dealership cost. And I don't know about whatever dealership you're at, but I know our dealership would say, okay, yeah, no problem. We'll do that for you, right? And then once you do that, once you negotiated the bottom line, then you negotiated your trade-in. Now you're going to say, hey, perfect. Now I do plan on financing. Can you show me what the payments look like? Now they're going to come out with a second worksheet. All right. So again, we're past the number one worksheet. We negotiated that first worksheet. You never, ever, ever, ever sign the first pencil, ever. We negotiated the first worksheet. Now they come out with the second one. All right, which is obviously already a better deal. Now they're going to show you your payment options. Right. The first thing you want to ask when you see those payments is, great, what's my interest rate? And hopefully you did your homework, because again, especially if you have decent credit, they went to one of the big banks, Bank of America, Chase, Capital One. You could go and ask those banks and find out what their auto loans are for used or new cars ahead of time. So now you already know, because they're not holding any points on you, right? You did your research. So they come in and they say, this is at 5%. No. I know I qualify for at least, a 3.5%, whatever it is, right? If they give you a hard time, that's fine. I'm not buying this car until this payment is here, okay? So again, now, you try to negotiate the interest rate, right? I need a better rate. That's the only way I'm buying the car. If they really give you a hard time and they're really holding to their guns, now we're going to focus on that payment. Because if there's anything left to give, if there's any more in their trade-in that they can give you, if there's any more on the bottom line that they can give you, and if they're holding some interest rate on you, guess what? That payment will go down, and they can make it go down. So let's just say, for example, the payment is $500 a month, right? And you say, hey, look, that's fine. I'll buy this car right now if you can get this payment to $400 a month. That might be shooting for the fences, but that's the point, right? Just let them know that you're serious, all right? When it really comes down to negotiating, you have to be ready to pull the trigger, okay? Like, that's literally, if you're ready to pull the trigger and they know that there's a deal on the table, like, they won't let you leave until they get you that car, And so you keep fighting for that payment. So again, hey, get it to $400 and I'll buy it right now. They're going to come back at probably like $470, $480, right? But hey, there's an extra $20, $30 right there, right? And now you might say, okay, well, if they only came back that much, then, hey, maybe they are getting close to where the bottom line is, right? And then you say, look, all right, $470. Okay, look, I really didn't want to go this far, but if you can get this payment to $450, I'll walk away with this car right now. I'll sign the document right now, right? They're probably going to come back at like $460 or something like that, right? This is where you can make a decision. Because let's just say they come back anything lower. Well, guess what? You just made a little bit more money in your pocket, all right? However they're making that happen. Now you can start making the decision like, are you okay with that? Or do you want to stick to your guns and say, look, it's $450. That's my bottom line. You have my number, let me know. And, this is like one of those things that people always say, like, get up and walk away to the dealership. I'll tell you what, it does work. I've had it happen so many times where a client gets up and starts walking away, and my manager like calls me into the office and he's like, where's he going? Like, I thought we had a deal. And I'm like, he wanted $450. And he's like, give him $450 then, right? Like, he wants the deal. So that works, right? Now I know this, right? Not everybody has, the willpower to negotiate and to not be emotionally invested and, to get kind of out of your comfort zone. But that's why I'm giving you all these details and all these different ways that they can make money. And you don't have to be the best at it. But the bottom line is that you're getting a better deal than you would have if you just went in there and agreed to a payment. All right, so let's just say they come back, hey, $450, you have a deal, you sign the worksheet. Next step is going into the finance office. This is where things can get a little bit crazy, right? This is where if a dealership has lost money on the front end, is what they call it, right? So the front end is, the trade-in and any money that they're making on the car they're selling you. And then the back end is the finance, okay? So that's going to be like your warranties and any, interest that they're holding on you or points that they're reserving, right? Like I said, they can hold 2 points. So I've seen plenty of times where the car on the front end loses $500, $1,000, but then they walk out of finance and the whole deal overall makes $4,000, right? Let that soak in, right? Your job's not done yet. You negotiated a good deal up front. Now it's the finance manager's job to try to make that money back, all right? Assuming you did your job on the front end, now it's the finance manager to make the dealership some money. So you're in the finance office. The first thing they're going to do, they're going to pound you to buy that warranty. Now you have to make a simple decision. Do you want the warranty or do you not want it? Okay? Again, in my opinion, depending on the car you're driving, how long you truly think you're going to own that car, if it's new or used, right, there's a lot that goes into it. But you make the decision, do you want the peace of mind of owning a warranty? Because in my opinion, again, there's no harm in getting a warranty. It's not like I think it's a complete scam. The issue is if you overpay for a warranty. That's my problem, okay? That's where it is no longer a good deal at all, okay? So while you're in that finance office, obviously this could change depending on when you're watching this video. 5 years from now, this could be different. Inflation is increasing. When we were at the dealership, when I was working in there like 4 years ago, a warranty for a new car could be as low as $1,800. And then like a full on 120,000 mile one on a new car could be like $2,500, right? At cost. And we could charge you $7,500 if we wanted to. And if you would accept it, right? You have to agree to that, obviously. But nonetheless, I'm just trying to give you an idea of what a warranty's worth, right? And again, if it's like a Porsche, the cost might actually be $7,000, right? Like that could be the case depending on what kind of car you're buying. But most cars that you're buying, that's probably not going to be the case. You get the idea though, right? If you're buying a Porsche, right, it's going to cost you a lot to fix it. If you're buying a Mercedes, probably going to cost a lot. A BMW, especially if it's an old BMW, it's like, well, something's probably going to go wrong with it eventually. And when it does, it's going to cost a fortune to fix it, right? So first things first you want to do is find that interest rate on the contract somewhere, right? Hey, where's my interest rate at? And let me tell you why. There's a chance that they told you were getting 3%, or they told you that you were qualified. Like, hey, you qualify for 3%, but they're still showing you a payment at 5%. And this is why they're doing it, because they know that you want that 3%. So what they do is, if you agree to a payment, and this is why you never focus on the payment, but there's a point where you have to, right? That's why you try to get the payment down as low as you can to make sure you're getting everything out. But if you agree to, let's say, a $500 payment, and that rate that they were showing you in the payment, which you can't really see usually, is 5%, then guess what? When you get back there, they have 2% being held on you, right? Their goal is to get you that 3%, but what they can do now, since you've already agreed to the payment, they can say, hey, great news, Mr. and Mr. Smith. We have a full bumper-to-bumper warranty, 120,000 miles, 7 years. Your payment's only going to go up $10. Sounds like a no-brainer. Some might ask questions, some might not, but obviously you probably should ask questions like, how is it only $10? And let me just cut to the chase, right? If they say that they're giving you a full-on warranty and your payment's only going up $10, they're holding money somewhere. They're lying to you, okay? That's what I'm getting to, right? Like, that's not the case. Like, just think about this. For every $1,000, your payment probably moves $25 to $30. And I just told you that a warranty is probably at minimum $2,000. So assuming they were showing you the best deal before you went into that finance office, if they're actually giving you a warranty and it's at cost, then your payment should move by $50, $60. So if you go in there and they're like, great news, we can get you a full warranty and your payment's only going to go up $10, something's iffy here, right? And let me back this up a little bit. When you're negotiating, sometimes you can say, hey, with the payments, can you show me the rate that this payment is reflecting, right? Do that if you can. But nonetheless, when you get in the finance office, make sure that you're seeing the 3% rate, let's say in this scenario, right, that you believe that you're getting, that's the rate that's being presented before they go over the warranty options, okay? Because again, what they'll do is they'll say, hey, great, you agree, perfect. Now they'll lower your interest rate to 3%, and that's what you'll see, and they'll put the cost of the warranty in there. And so what happens is the warranty cost replaces the money that they were holding in the reserve or the interest rate, okay? Hope that makes sense. And so, if you guys are confused on any of this, feel free to leave me a comment. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have, especially if you're going to be buying a car soon and, you want to pick my brain a little bit. Completely fine with that. One of the perks of having a smaller channel, I don't have a lot of comments coming through, so I can actually reply to them all. So with that being said, though, once you negotiate, let's say you're getting a warranty. If you negotiate it, if you didn't, either way, it doesn't matter. Know what your interest rate is, right? If you did get a warranty, though, find the warranty on the contract and find the cost of the warranty, okay? So a lot of times, I've seen it all the time. I was in finance for a long time, and most people, they just don't care, right? They agree to their $500 payment out there, right? And at this point, it's okay. Like, I'm $500, I'm cool with. Just I'm signing. Let me get out of here, right? Just try not to have that mindset, right? Just keep pushing through all the way to make sure everything's right. So like, you don't have to read through all the fine print, just read through the purchase agreement, right? On the contract where it shows, all right, the price of my car, that's correct. My trade-in, that's correct. Okay, they did discount those add-ons that we were talking about. And, you know, this is the interest rate. Okay, 3%, that's perfect. Okay, I did get the warranty. Looks like the warranty cost is, you know, $2,000. Fair enough, right? Where you want to be worried if that warranty is like $6,000 on a brand new car. Like, I'm telling you right now, that's not the case. Again, it depends per scenario. And I mentioned before, if you have a specific question about a specific car, trade-in, deal, whatever, let me know in the comments. But either way, you're looking over the purchase agreement. Okay, just make sure everything's right. Super fast, super simple. It's just, that's where I've seen a lot of people just look over and not be like, whoa, wait, the warranty is $6,000 and my payment only went up $10? Like, no, something's wrong here. Like, that's not right. Okay, that's what I want you to look out for. So the bottom line, just make sure you don't overpay for a warranty and make sure that the interest rate is reflecting the correct rate. And you have to do it in that step though. You have to look for the interest rate first, okay, before they show you payments of a warranty. Because if you do it backwards, then they could sneak that warranty in there, then drop your rate down to 3%. And now your numbers are all exactly what they said. You have your rate, you have your warranty, your payment doesn't really change, right? No. Look at the interest rate first. Make sure that you see that on the contract, okay? First, what the rate is, and then let them negotiate the warranty. Okay, so nonetheless, moving on, I just wanted to mention one more thing, that not all dealerships are the same. And here's an example. Tesla and CarMax, they have, you know, a no haggle program. It's just what it is. Like, you can't negotiate, even if you wanted to. You can trade your car in with them. And I'm gonna tell you right now, don't do it. Like, they will reap you on your trade-in. And like, there's no negotiating though, because like buying a Tesla is all computerized. I don't know if you've ever bought a Tesla before. It's actually a pretty cool experience. I personally love it. I've owned 2 Teslas now. I don't think I'll ever get anything different. I like the no hassle, right? And they have good warranties and all that good stuff, right? No maintenance. CarMax, they kind of do the same thing, like the no haggle thing. But with that being said, you can haggle with them and they're probably still going to sell you a warranty, right? And you also have Carvana. I forgot to add that one. Carvana is another one where there's like, you know, no negotiating really. Like, the price is the price, you know, the trade-in is the trade-in. You know, you could take it or leave it, right? Like, it's like a vending machine. It's pretty cool if you go to those too. I personally probably would never do that. I'd rather honestly go to a dealership and like talk to somebody than do that. But the Tesla is pretty cool, especially if you're buying a new car. There's not really much, you know, that should or could go wrong. Everything's under warranty. That being said, I'll leave a link down in the description. I have a referral link, okay, and it saves both of us some money if you end up using it, if you're interested in buying a Tesla. Again, great vehicle. I love it. If you have any questions about Teslas, let me know. The bottom line is that it's the dealership's job to make as much money as possible on each customer that walks through that door. Okay, that is their job. Every step of the way is to try to make money on you. Okay, not to lose money, but to make money. Right? I think this is obvious, and I'm sure you know this, but that's why I'm trying to like drive home. Like, you never sign that first worksheet, because they're making money off you if you do that. Like, guaranteed. Like, they're making a ton of money on you, right? Negotiate. Like I said, bottom line first, then your trade-in, then you focus on the payment and the interest rate. Then you finally get to the payment that you want. Then you go to finance office. Make sure you look over that contract. Make sure that rate is correct on there before you even think about buying a warranty. And make sure you check out the price of the warranty in the contract, right? You don't ever take your focus away from the bottom line. And that's one of the main things I want you to take away from this. Even if you do that in the finance office, right? Like, you commit to that $500 payment, let's say, they could still be hiding something from you, right? Like, even though they keep your payment at $500, they might have slipped something in there. It happens. It's unethical. They shouldn't be doing it, but it happens, okay? So that's why you need to pay attention to at least the purchase contract, where you see your interest rate and see the price of the warranty. Make sure all the numbers are what they were, you know, out in the sales floor when you were first negotiating. Make sure nothing's changed, right? And at the end of the day, you're gonna save money, right? If you don't do this perfectly, I promise you, you're at least saving $2,000 or $3,000 minimum. You don't even have to be a master negotiator, right? And if you're really good at this, then maybe the dealership actually loses money, because it does happen. Nonetheless, I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you're still here, consider subscribing to the channel. I greatly appreciate it. Like this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.